Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome to you here in our physical sanctuary. Welcome to you online in our virtual sanctuary. Welcome in from this gray morning. Here in Santa Barbara, we know that the arrival of spring comes not with bursts of sunshine, but with cool gray mist. And we bring spring with us here in our hearts this morning. So whether you're joining us here on this gray morning or whether the sun is shining where you are, it is good to be together here in this loving community of seekers where we strive to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. We would love to get to know you better if you're visiting with us this morning. So if you're online and you want to fill out our online connection card so we can stay in touch, there's a link in the chat. And here in person, there's a yellow connection card in your order of service, and you can drop that in the offertory when it comes around. And we also have a newcomer orientation on the second Sunday of every month, and that's this Sunday, which means that after the service, we'll be gathering in the office right across the courtyard to get to know some other new folks, hear a little bit about this congregation and how you can get involved. We would love to get to know you and ask any questions that you like. There's a lot of things going on as we turn the seasons here at the Unitarian Society, and I want to highlight that after the service today, we are going to be having a Justice Cafe. And so if you want to hear a little bit more of the voice of one of our ancestors, Julia Ward Howe, as she talked about the origins of Mother's Day for her as a day for peace and justice to take root in the world, stop on by Parish Hall for the Justice Cafe to meet members of our Justice and Equity team and find out how you can get involved in this congregation's efforts to transform the world for the better. We also have tonight, after you've gone out to brunch or done whatever your afternoon takes you, we have our open mic night here, which is a beloved, fun, and wonderful opportunity to showcase those talents that maybe you keep hidden the rest of the year. Maybe you have something you want to share with this congregation. All are welcome. Poetry and music, things you've written yourself, things you want to read that other people have written. It's always a wonderful time, and it's at 4 o'clock here in Parish Hall. You can talk to Ken Beiser if you have any questions. He's floating around here this morning. I invite you now to take a breath, to settle yourself here in this community, to set aside whatever to-do lists or busyness you have waiting for you out in the world, and give yourself the gift of presence together this morning as we ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by David C. Pohl. We come to this time and this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of a free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair with all her people one.
In the spirit of an earth made fair, the good thing that I want to lift up this morning, as is our practice these mornings, to lift up something good that we find in the world, in our community. The good thing that I want to lift up among us this morning is that this week, the Goleta City Council approved the entire city facilities of Goleta will be run by renewable energies starting in July. This is a remarkable move. for a city here in our community, and it's highlighting the way we are all working to move towards a more sustainable future. And it comes right on the heels of another piece of news from California, which is that on May 8th, just a few days ago, the state produced for the first time enough renewable electricity to meet over 100% of the demand on that day. So that's a milestone we've hit as we work towards a more sustainable future, and that is a good thing. If you can think of something good that you've seen or heard of in the world, I invite you to talk about it during coffee hour, to share it in the chat, to help lift each other up and remind one another that amidst all of the challenging news we experience, there are also people working to bring more love and justice into being all the time. I'm going to invite us now into a time of community greeting. Every now and then we offer an opportunity to stand up and say hello to somebody you don't know, introduce yourself to someone new, say hello in the chat. So let's go ahead and rise, and for just a few minutes, say hello to someone near you who maybe you haven't met before. Turn on the video in your chat. I invite you all now to return to your seats, to consider this an invitation to the beginning of a conversation, not the end. There will, of course, be plenty of time to continue these connections during our social time after the service, to stick around online for our community social time online. It is so wonderful to see you all greeting one another. And so now let us sing together. Matthew, we're going to sing number 12, O Life That Maketh All Things New.
O life that maketh all things new, the blooming earth, our thoughts within, a pilgrim feet wet with thy dew, in gladness hither turn again. From hand to hand the greeting flows, from eye to eye the signals run, from heart to heart the bright hope glows, the seekers of the light are one. One in the freedom of the truth, one in the joy of paths untrod, one in the soul's perennial youth, one in the larger thought of God. The freer step, the fuller breath, the wide horizon's grander view, the sense of life that knows no death, the life that maketh all things new.
Morning, it is time for a story. Can I invite anyone who wants to come up and get a little closer for this story, especially our kiddos, especially our kids who are in our OWL class today. I need you today. Come on forward. Here they come. Good morning, good morning. Hi, guys. Eager and ready, excellent. So, today is Mother's Day, right? And I have a couple of questions for you. First, what is a mother? Oh, sorry. We've been having a little connectivity trouble here. What is a mother? Do you guys have any ideas? Wow, nobody's sure here. There's one, apparently. There's one. Okay. We have one here. That's a mother. Okay. What are some things a mother does? Loves you. Takes care of you, Max says. Yeah, nice. If you look up the word mother in the Cambridge English Dictionary, here's what you'll find. Mother, noun, a female parent. Mother, verb, to treat someone with kindness and affection and try to protect that person from danger or difficulty. That sounds like something maybe dads could do too, or aunts or uncles or grandmas or grandpas. Well, lots of people really could do that. Raise your hand, and this is gonna be everybody up here. Raise your hand if you're in our OWL class. Yes, these kids. Today in OWL, you're gonna be talking about what makes a family a family. And you're gonna read and talk about this book, A Family is a Family is a Family by Sarah O'Leary. But I'm gonna give you a sneak peek at this story right now because I thought it would be a good one for the whole congregation to hear. A family is a family is a family. And you'll be able to see the pictures when Janie reads it to you in OWL. We were talking about families at school. The teacher asked us what we thought made our family special. I went last because I wasn't sure what to say. My family isn't like everybody else's. Here's what some of the kids in my class had to say. My mom and dad have been best friends since first grade. They really like each other. It's kind of gross. There are lots of kids in our family. Mom and dad just keep coming home with more. Both of my moms are terrible singers, and they both like to sing really loud. I have more grandparents than anybody else I know. We have a new baby in our house. I think my mom ordered him online. We all look alike in my family. We just kind of go together. Oops, sorry. One week mom gets me, the next week dad does. Fair is fair. Some people say I look like my dad, and some people say I look like my mom. I think I look like myself. My mom says that before I was born, I grew in her heart. Because I live with my grandmother, people sometimes think she's my mother. She's not. She's my everything. Some of the kids were dads when he met mom. Some were moms when she met dad. Now we all belong to each other. One of my dads is tall and one is short. They both give good hugs. I listened to everybody else, and then I remembered the time someone saw us all together at the park. She asked my foster mother to point out her real children. "Oh, I don't have any imaginary children," Mom said. "All my children are real. A family is a family is a family." So that's our time for all ages today. But there's one more thing. On this Mother's Day, and this is for you guys, well, this is for everybody. On this Mother's Day, go out and give whoever mother treats you with kindness and affection and protects you a super big hug. You might be giving out a lot of hugs today. And that's our time for all ages.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
I invite you now once again to settle yourself where you are, to allow yourself to enter into a time of reflection and meditation and prayer. Perhaps you hold your hands gently open on your lap, or settle your feet on the floor, or your back against the pew, or wherever it is that you find yourself. Perhaps you begin to pay attention to the way your heart beats, or the way the breath flows in and out of your body. Perhaps you soften your gaze so you can take in the words and then the quiet and then the music. And our time for prayer and meditation, I am going to use the words of Alison Luterman. It's a poem titled Invisible Work. Because no one could ever praise me enough, because I don't mean these poems only, but the unseen, unbelievable effort it takes to live the life that goes on between them. I think all the time about invisible work. About the young mother on welfare I interviewed years ago who said, "It's hard. You bring him to the park, run rings around yourself, keeping him safe, cut hot dogs into bite-sized pieces for dinner, and there's no one to say what a good job you're doing, how you're patient and loving for the 1,000th time, even though you had a headache. And I, who am used to feeling sorry for myself because I am lonely, when all the while, as the Chippewa poem says, I am being carried by great winds across the sky. The thought of the invisible work that stitches up the world day and night, the slow, unglamorous work of healing, the way worms in the garden tunnel ceaselessly so the earth can breathe. The bees ransack this world into being. White owls and poets stalk shadows, our loneliest labors under the moon. There are mothers for everything, and the sea is a mother too, whispering and whispering to us long after we have stopped listening. I stopped and let myself lean a moment against the blue shoulder of the air. The work of my heart is the work of the world's heart. There is no other art. Let us pause now for a moment of quiet reflection together. I invite you to stay right where you are and turn to song number 4, I Brought My Spirit to the Sea. Let us sing this reflective song together. Number 4, I Brought My Spirit to the Sea.
I brought my spirit to the sea. I stood upon the shore. I gazed upon infinity. I heard the waters roll. And then there came a sense of peace. Some whisper calmed my soul. Some ancient ministry of stars had made my spirit whole. I brought my spirit to the trees that loomed against the sky. I touched each wandering, careless breeze to know if God was nigh. And then I felt an inner flame that fiercely burned my tears. Upright I rose from bended knee to meet the asking years.
So as many of you know, I am getting ready to start a sabbatical in just a couple of days. I will be here one more Sunday, next Sunday, for our coming of age service, but this Sunday will be my last Sunday in the pulpit before I go. Sabbaticals are a gift, but the blessings of sabbaticals sometimes take a little while to emerge. I look forward to bringing my spirit to the sea for a while, bringing my spirit to the trees to see what they have to remind me of. But it takes a while sometimes to clear the decks, to see what you find underneath the day-to-day. So I thought I would ask you all for something before I go. Ask you for your blessings to take with me on this journey. But because I need to clear some space first, I'm going to do this a little differently. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to take that little card you were given, and if you don't have a card, if you want to raise your hand, one of our ushers will bring you an index card or something to write with. So go ahead and raise your hand if you need one. Raise it high. They'll come around while I explain here. And take that card, and I'm going to ask you to write down on that card a blessing for me to take with me on my sabbatical time. It can be a simple, it can be a memory you want to share, it can be a hope that you might have for when I return, and if you're online, you can type them into the chat, or you can send a direct message to Angie if you want to keep it more private, and Angie is going to gather them up and print them out and put them with these cards that we're collecting here. But all of these blessings that you're writing here, I want you to know something about them. I am not going to read them right away. I'm going to gather them up. I'm going to put them in an envelope, probably one of those big manila envelopes. I'm going to seal it up, and I'm not going to open it until halfway through my sabbatical time. Sometime mid-July, probably, right? Mid-July, when I can read them after I've had the chance to clear a little space. Read them when I have some space to really take them in and sit with the blessings that you offer me and this community during this time, ready for the inspirations that they might bring. This will be a nice way for us to keep this thread of ministry between us alive while I'm away, and while I am sure I will miss you, I know that I am also grateful for this time. So go ahead, and Heather's going to give you a little music while you write. You could even draw a blessing if you'd rather, and then put them in the offertory plate when it gets passed around, and the ushers will collect them and will put them in an envelope sight unseen, and it will be my gift to look forward to sometime in July. Each month here at the Unitarian Society, as part of our offering, we give away 25% of the plate collection to a project or program that lives our values in the world. And this month, the outreach offering is for Transition House. This congregation for decades and decades has been aware that housing is a problem here in Santa Barbara, and everyone deserves a safe place to call home. This congregation has been instrumental in launching all kinds of projects and programs, and Transition House is one of those projects that this congregation was involved in from the very beginning and continues to support over the decades. So please give as generously as you are able to support their work and the work of this congregation. And please read with me the affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Is my mic on, John, this time? Is my mic on? Yes?
This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of voices too, the sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it'll turn to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
You know, one of the great gifts of being a minister is that I get to look out at you and see your faces looking back at me. And what happens to people's faces when they hear beautiful music is really a wonderful thing to see. The joy, smiles that come up are really beautiful. You all look beautiful when you're hearing such beautiful things. Thank you to our musicians. So this past weekend, I had the joy of participating in the installation of a dear colleague of mine at a Unitarian congregation in Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver, Canada is a beautiful city, for those of you who haven't been there. Lush and green and absolutely gorgeous. And an installation, for those of you who might be wondering, is the name for the ceremony that recognizes the start of a new ministry in a congregation. Ministers in our tradition were not sent out to serve from some ecclesiastical hierarchical body somewhere far away, but rather each congregation selects and calls in their own minister for themselves. And when a congregation calls a new minister, sometime during the first year they celebrate with an installation, where it's common to bring in colleagues like myself to speak to the new minister's role with the congregation, and there are traditional elements that every installation usually contains. And I was there to help with the charge to the minister. The part of the service where the incoming minister is given some sage advice by their colleagues, usually about taking all of their vacation and sabbatical time. Or perhaps for those of us who have been doing this for a while, reminded of why they went into ministry in the first place. It's an opportunity to refresh both the meaning and the practice of our call for the minister in question as well as the congregation that they have agreed to serve. Being asked to participate in this installation was a chance for me to also reflect on my own sense of call, the call that I received from you when you called me to be your lead minister in 2015, as well as my own internal sense of what ministry means, why I do this weird and wonderful work in the first place. As I'm getting ready to head into my sabbatical, which starts a week from tomorrow, this opportunity for reflection came at a good time. At the installation, they included a reading by the Reverend Jack Mendelson. This name a few of you might recognize because he spent a year here at this congregation as the interim minister in 1990. This reading that Jack Mendelson wrote about what it means to be a minister has become a tradition. And he says, "A Unitarian Universalist minister is a person who is never completely satisfied or satisfiable, never completely adjusted or adjustable, a person who walks in two worlds, one of things as they are, the other of things as they ought to be, and loves them both. Ministers are persons with pincushion souls and elastic hearts, who sit with the happy and the sad in a chaotic pattern of laugh, cry, and know deep down that the first time their laughter is false or their tears are make-believe, their days as real ministers are over. Ministers are people with dreams they can never wholly share, partly because they have some doubts about them, and partly because they are unable to explain adequately what it is they think they see and understand. A minister is a person, he says, who continually runs out of time, out of courage, and out of money. A person whose tasks involve great responsibility and little power, who must learn to accept people where they are and go from there. A person who must never try to exercise influence that has not been earned. The minister who is worthy knows all of this and is still thankful every day of life for the privilege of being a minister. The future of the liberal church, he says, is almost totally dependent on these two factors: great congregations, whether large or small, and effective, dedicated ministers. The strangest feature of their relationship is that they create one another. The strangest feature of their relationship is that they create one another. There's a lot to explore in this reading about ministry, but as I head into my sabbatical, two things caught my eye. The first is this notion that congregations and ministers create each other. That is to say, we're in this ongoing reciprocal relationship that creates our future, whether we're here for 1 year or 20 years or more. And this relationship that we co-create together, it doesn't just create the future of this congregation and the future of this minister, but it creates the future of universalism and even the world as a whole, because we are interdependent and interconnected in everything we do. Ministers and members move around. In fact, I learned that one of the ministers who served the Vancouver congregation in the early 1950s was the Reverend John Lex Crane, who served this congregation for 19 years a few years later. Great congregations and effective ministers shape one another, and in so doing, we shape the wider world. And one of the ways a great congregation helps sustain and support an effective long-term ministry is by offering sabbatical from time to time, so that a minister has the internal resources to continue to do this work. The second thing that captured my attention in the reading was the statement in the first paragraph that a minister is a person who walks in two worlds, one of things as they are, the other of things as they ought to be, and loves them both. And I would say that this is not just the work of the minister, but the work of anyone who participates in a religious organization, a spiritual community like the Unitarian Society, to walk in two worlds, one as it is, one as it could be, them both. Ministry includes both the pragmatic and the fantastic. The ability with budgets and buildings and day-to-day operations, while at the same time holding a vision for the meaning and purpose of it all, and a dream for what more might be possible. This tension between the daily work of running a congregation and that future-oriented work of cultivating a vision, this tension is inspiring and a lot of times heartbreaking. Loving the world as it is, if you are paying any attention at all right now, is very difficult. And imagining that things can be better, even after taking a good hard look at the realities of our human existence, imagining that it can be better even after taking that good hard look, well, you can be forgiven if your faith in humanity is faltering from time to time right now. For a while now, we've been living with a lot of dystopian visions of the future. For several decades, these science fiction visions have come to be bleak. From zombie apocalypses like the TV show The Walking Dead. How many of you have seen The Walking Dead? Some of you, right? Where the world is overtaken by zombies. To the authoritarian nightmares of The Handmaid's Tale and The Hunger Games. How many of you have read either one of those sort of authoritarian dystopias? A lot of you. There's no shortage of people indulging in imaginations of worst-case scenarios. Cautionary tales sometimes. But even family-friendly franchises like Star Wars depend upon the notion of an all-powerful empire and an underground resistance. The Star Wars galaxy is not a friendly one. And on the other end of the spectrum from dystopia, you have what? Utopias, right? This idealized vision of a world where the problems of civic and social life have been solved. And utopias, it turns out, are not much fun to watch on TV. Who wants to watch a bunch of people who've already solved all their problems, right? Where's the drama in that? But we Unitarian Universalists, we have a strong affinity for utopias. Our Unitarian forebears in particular, they tried more than one experiment in utopian living. The mid to late 19th century gave rise to several attempts at creating utopian communities with radically progressive models of education and property ownership and labor and family structures. There's just a couple I want to mention that in the 1940s, the Unitarian minister George Ripley and his wife Sophia founded a farm in Massachusetts. And also in the mid-1800s, there was the community of Fruitlands, a wonderful name, right? Fruitlands, founded by Bronson Alcott, the father of Louisa May Alcott. And then there was Hopedale, right? Another great name, founded by the radical Unitarian and Universalist minister Aidan. These were created with the idea that if only people could orient themselves towards a more spiritually authentic life, if a more wholesome way of living could be achieved outside of the hustle and bustle of urban existence, then everything would fall into place. The workings of a just and loving God would just be made evident in the world. These utopian communities did not last, although they influenced a whole generation of social and political activists who took up the cause in the world. In dystopias, people struggle just to survive. And it turns out that in most utopias, it's also a struggle just to survive. Most of the utopias collapsed financially after just a few years. And what is a utopia for one person is not necessarily a utopia for everyone. One person's ideal life is often another person's hell on earth. But there is another option, a protopia, another word of envisioning the future of humanity, not a dystopia and not a utopia, but a protopia. And as you know, we are all about exploding binaries around here, right? So get out of that binary vision of everything at its worst or everything at its best and talk about a protopia. The word was coined in 2011 by Kevin Kelly, who was one of the co-founders of Wired magazine and the author of a book called What Technology Wants. And he defines protopia as a state that is better than today than yesterday, although it might be only a little bit better. He goes on to say that as a society, we have become so disillusioned by the failures of utopian visions and the drama of dystopian fantasies that we've developed this kind of fear of the future, this assumption that things are only going to get worse from here on out. He says, we find it very difficult to imagine any kind of future we would want to live in. He says, name a single science fiction future that is both plausible and desirable. To get us out of this fear of the future, he conjures up the protopia, a pragmatic yet optimistic exercise in imagining a better future that still makes room for humanity's weaknesses and worries and inevitable failures. Protopias are not about perfection, but about improvement. We can make things better, he says, but only if we put in the time to imagine the possibilities. A protopia is this pluralistic, achievable future that is better than we have today, where we can imagine thriving, not just surviving. Well, Kevin Kelly coined the phrase and spoke about it directly in relationship to the development of technology. It no longer just lives within those sort of tech industry circles of people who read Wired magazine. Monica Bielskite is a futurist who became deeply interested in the concept of a protopia and founded the Protopia Futures Collaborative, and this is how she defines it. Protopia is a continuous dialogue, more of a verb than a noun, a process rather than a destination, never finite, always iterative, meant to be questioned, adjusted, and expanded. And above all, she says, Protopia explores hope, futures wherein we have come together, imperfect as our condition is. Futures where we have come together with all of our perfections alongside of us. She's very clear that the futures they dream about together are plural, Not one single right answer, not one utopian vision held up above all others, but a multitude of ways to say yes to human flourishing. Seeing the future not as a thing that is built, but rather as an ecology of ideas and actions that are nurtured and grown. As she writes, the ever-shifting perimeter of the probable, possible, plausible, and most importantly, desirable. A protopian perspective recognizes there can be more than one right answer, as many beautiful futures as we can dream up. Does any of this sound resonant with this project of Unitarian Universalism a little bit? The work we do here together every week, making meaning out of the beauty and heartbreak of the world and working towards a world where everyone can flourish, where everyone has a say, where everyone can invest in a vision of a desirable future, something that includes us all. It's a way for me to take the hopeful core of our faith, the love at the center of Unitarian Universalism, that foundational optimism that we've carried within us for generations, hold on to all of that inspired those utopian communities of the past, but shape it in a way that feels possible. I'm looking for possibilities for our future together. Rather than allowing cynicism to take root because perfection's not possible, rather because utopias, when they fail, become dystopias so often, the concept of protopia invites us into this workable, sustainable, always evolving visionary process. Ministry, as I understand it, really is about this ongoing work of protopian thought and action. And so I am thankful every day, as Jack Mendelson writes, for the privilege of being your minister in this great collaboration that is the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. And I am so grateful for the gift of this sabbatical time where I will have the space to cultivate some of those visions of the future. Not utopian dreams of perfection or dystopian fears of the apocalypse, but a protopian vision where we get better, sometimes just a little bit every day, more inclusive, more sustainable, more joyful and just and compassionate, getting better every time we gather. For these 16 weeks while I am away, you will have the opportunity to hear from guest ministers and speakers from the wider Santa Barbara community and beyond. You will continue to reflect together on what this means for you on the Bridge to the Future Capital project that we are embarking on. You won't stop growing and learning while I am away, I am sure of it. You will continue to welcome newcomers and care for each other in times of need, and care for this community that offers the world something precious, this sacred place to practice being human together. And while I'm away, you will be needed right here. Sabbaticals are good not just for the minister, but for the congregation. You have a fantastic staff team working alongside you, and I have no doubt that things are in good hands. Be gracious and kind to one another, and all will be well. And during these 16 weeks out of office, I will have the opportunity to renew and refresh my vision of ministry and our work together, to reconnect with the things that sustain me, to read some of those books that are languishing in a pile on my desk, and to recenter my heart and spirit so that I'm ready to move with you this fall into the creation of this world where all can thrive. Because, my friends, we will need all of the yeses we can gather, all of the protopian visions we can dream and put forth in the world this fall. And I will carry you in my heart. I will carry your blessings with me while I'm away. And I look forward to hearing about your growth when I return, and taking up that work together once again. So I close with words from our meditation this morning. I stopped and let myself lean a moment against the blue shoulder of the air. The work of my heart is the work of the world's heart. There is no other art. Thank you for this gift of time. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Let us sing together now. Let us rise in body and spirit to sing number 368. Now let us sing.
Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing. Now let us sing to the power of the joy. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within.
So go ahead and stay right where you are. Stay right where you are, singers. If you want to take hands with someone near you, if you have permission, or you can put your hands over your heart if you prefer, or hold your hands open if you're joining us from afar, however it is that you get connected to that sense of being in community, in this sacred community with one another. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing.